Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Urban Survival Gear TiScribe Bolt Mini. A very, very interesting sequel to one of my very favorite pens. First off though, before I go any further, I want to, give some full disclosure here. This pen was sent to me directly by the manufacturer. That's right, Kelvin from Urban Survival Gear reached out and said, hey Nick, I know you love the original. You want to check out the small one? Yes, thank you very much. And so I did. But nevertheless, I told him, as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. Might be a gem, might be junk. And, of course, we have to assume this is the best quality controlled one of these guys ever. And I'm doing my best not to let that affect my review. But anyways, there you go. Next thing, size comparison. Let's compare it against a couple of more common pens in the everyday life. One of them, obviously, should be the TiScribe Bolt. This is the full-size TiScribe Bolt on the top here. This is the Mini down below. If you couldn't figure that part out, oh boy, pen selection is the least of your worries. Here we have a Pilot G2 pen. We have a Parker click stick sort of thing. We have the, oh, come on, tactile turn, bolt action mini. So you can see here, actually, that's a relevant comparison. Well, you can't see that, but I can tell you that. This is the Machine Era Classic and, of course, the Parker Jada, which is a very excellent choice of smaller pen. So, there you go. That's the size comparison. Then finally, like I said, this is a miniature version of one of my very, very favorite pens. The TiScribe Bolt Original is just absolutely amazing, and this smaller version was, well, we'll see if it's a worthy sequel. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of this very interesting little pen right here. So on the good side, to start with, this is using a very easily available refill. This is using a Parker-style refill. It ships with a Schmidt Easy Flow 9000 cartridge. It's maybe not the most compelling cartridge ever in my estimation. I tend to be a fan of the Parker Gel cartridges. I think those tend to work pretty well. However, nevertheless, there are about a bazillion different refills that can fit a Parker standard refill pattern, right? Including the Fisher Space Pen refill, which I know is something that a lot of people really do appreciate. So any Parker refill is going to be great, and will work just fine in this guy. So that's good. Next thing, this guy is a slightly shorter pen. If we do some measurements here, we see that this guy comes in roughly around 4 3/4 inches on this guy, as opposed to the original one, which is going to come in a little bit closer to, yeah, about 5 1/2, a little bit more than that. It is a shorter pen, generally speaking. In terms of overall diameter, I believe them to be pretty much identical. If they are not identical, yeah, we got 9.4 millimeters. Yeah, that's right, real units, 9.5. That's probably error based on these freaking calipers. But nevertheless, these are very similar in dimensions, except one of them is a little bit shorter, and that can be very nice, especially if you're carrying this in a shallow pocket. Something like that, I do appreciate that. Next thing, this continues to have the nice little grooves in there. What we can see here is that we have these 5, I can't count, people, little grooves here, and within each one of those grooves, actually, I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a little bit of sub-grooving. It's almost like it's not threading, but you can still see some of the machining marks in there, and those are a much higher polish. It's a nice finish in there, and I gotta say, that's a very attractive little detail there. Next thing, this guy has 3 different options. This is the titanium version. It is 0.7 ounces, and it is $90. You can also get one in copper for $80, that's 1.1 ounces, and one in brass for $70, that's 1.05 ounces. I don't have the brass or the copper ones, because, well, titanium's my jam anyways, but nevertheless, you have 3 different options at 3 different price points. The most expensive being the Ti, cheapest being the brass, but you do pay a price in weight when you go to the brass. Although, even still, it's a pretty lightweight pen. Next thing, this is, and actually I can go ahead and I can throw that in the good. Actually, no, I can't, because that's the great. Whoops, anyways, I'm an idiot. So there were lots of nice little accessories. That's the next thing in the good. What I mean by that is if you go to the website for Urban Survival Gear, you can buy a whole bunch of random, pen candy, basically, to put on your pen. You can buy a tip for the pen that is in Mokume or Mokutai. You can buy a new clip out of another material that's more beautiful or less beautiful. You can get painted, well, not painted, but Cerakoted clips. There are all kinds of ways that you can kind of customize this pen to make it your own. In addition to doing things like anodization, they don't do that through the maker, but it's titanium, so you can just do that, right? And so I appreciate the the fact that you can buy the pen basic for, whatever the 90 bucks or whatever it is, and then eventually turn around and say, I really like this. I want to make it a little fancier. Oh, maybe I'll add a fancier clip. Maybe I'll do... And because it's easy to disassemble, all of these elements come right off. The top cap there, the middle... Or I'm sorry, not the middle. The clip unscrews here. That's a beautiful thing. Next thing, this is kind of amorphous, but they didn't screw it up. So, it's always a little bit frustrating to me, or a little bit scary, I suppose, when somebody takes an existing product that I really, really like a lot and then does something new with it, because there's always the chance that it's going to get screwed up, right? But the fact is that all of the things that I love about the TiScribe Bolt remain true here. This is still a very durable pen. Because, well, there's not all that much to it. It works. It's still very ergonomic. It fits beautifully in the hand. It still writes well. The balance on it is good to go. Let me find some paper here, and I will writes well. It'll write a whole lot better without the freaking Easy Flow cartridge. Sorry, I'm a snob. But I can still say that it writes well, and it fits really nicely in the hand. It's comfortable. There's really nothing sticking out of the barrel except the clip. It's just good to go there. It's still a fully ambidextrous bolt-action pen, and I still love this freaking bolt mechanism. I mean, seriously, it's brilliant. The fact is that all you really need is one thing sticking off the pen, and that's the clip. And if that also happens to be the thing that deploys it, well, that's a beautiful thing. And so all of the best parts of the original are here, and it's a little shorter, and that's really what I'd hope for. But also you can see that there are some areas where it has been iterated on, where, improvements have been made to things like the finishing of the screws, etc. It's a little bit, you can tell that Kelvin, the maker for Urban Survival Gear, that is, has gotten a little better at things. These guys are a little bit darker, etc. Anytime that you see improvement, well, that's a great thing. And so to me, all of that is the good, is that it shows some improvement relative to the original TiScribe. They didn't screw up the things that made it amazing. You get lots of accessories. You get 3 options at 3 prices, all of which are fine. You get good grooving, it's shorter, and it takes a pocket-style refill. On the great side, this guy is lightweight. That's what I was going to say. In fact, it's very thin as well. I mean, if you compare this to, for instance, this is the titanium tactile turn bolt action mini. And I mean, if we look at the width of this guy comes in 10.9 millimeters as opposed to, a much smaller number. I want to say it was 9. Damn it, I'll just remeasure. 8.4 millimeters for the USG. Similarly, this guy comes in at 0.75 ounces for a relatively full-size pen. I mean, given the pocket jotter is a little bit smaller, but if you compare that to other options, for instance, the Machine Era Classic at 1.4, or even the Tactile Turn, we see here 1.2 ounces for roughly the same size of pen. So the lightweightness is something that every time I've handed this to people, they were like, "Oh wow, that's really light. That's really cool." And just the fact that it's very thin just makes this carry super easy. This is a pen that disappears in the pocket in a very nice way. And so to me, at least, what's great about this guy is that it is so lightweight and it is so thin because, honestly, it's a great freaking piece. In that way, this is real easy to carry. On the bad side, to start with, prices definitely a little bit up there. I mean, look, 90 bucks, 100 bucks, that's kind of common for really nicely machined pens. And this is nicely machined, but still, it's getting to be up there. Next thing, the back cap on this guy, and especially compared to some of your higher-end fountain pens and whatnot, you can get really, really nice stuff in that $90 to $100 range. So you really have to like what this is delivering to end up paying that price. I happen to, but still. Next thing, there is a little bit of a color difference between the tip of the pen right here, the back cap of the pen, and then the rest of the barrel. This guy is darker, and then the rest of it is a little bit lighter. Is this a big deal? No, not in any way, shape, or form. And I imagine that after you use it long enough, you'll get sort of a uniform patina from wear of just using this guy. Not the titanium patinas, but just like overall, things will kind of even out. But at the same time, it's a little bit weird. Whatever finishing they're doing is a little different up here than it is down here. Whatever. Okay. Next thing, as always, the edge of the clip thing. This is such a first world problem, but if you are fidgeting with the pen constantly, you're going to find the edge of this to be a little bit hard, a little bit sharper, frankly, than some of the other bolt action solutions. Like this has a beautifully chamfered sort of situation. This is just a little nicer to fidget with. That doesn't actually matter for anybody ever. And in fact, one could argue that for wearing gloves and such, this might be better, but it's still something to keep in mind. Next thing, the spring in the front here, not captive. Means that this guy could go rolling off someplace. And if you were the type to disassemble pens in meetings, well, There you go. Next thing, this guy has a bit of prominence above the pocket clip in the pocket. You can see here that not only is the clip itself relatively tall, but you end up with a fair amount of pen sticking up above the top of your pocket. This is fine, doesn't really super matter, and it makes it very easy to grab. But another level, if you have a pocket that kind of folds down, there's a little flap on there, this can be a little awkward. That said, the shortness of this pen tends to make that a little bit less of an issue of the shortened version. So, you know, it is what it is. But, yeah, that's something to keep in mind. And then finally, one other thing to kind of highlight here, and this is sort of just a little bit of a trouble with the TiScribe Bolt generally. You can see here that the clip, because the clip is moving, the clip has the potential to do as it has here and sort of mar its own path into the pen. This is not actually a problem, and in some ways I think it's kind of cool. You get a bit of a mirroring of the J-gate motion down there, but especially if you are a person to kind of do this repeatedly, as I am, and especially if you're touching down here rather than up top there, you can get that little pattern aware. Is it a big deal? No, not really, but it is something that you will probably see over time. And, you know, it's part of the mystique, I suppose. So, to me, at least, that's what's bad, is that it is possible to mar the pen by moving the clip like this, but, yeah. It's a little prominent above the pocket. It's a non-captive spring. The edge of the clip is a little sharp still if you're a super crazy fidgeter. The back cap doesn't match, and the front cap, for that matter, don't match exactly the finish of the body, and the prices are a little bit up there, but it's still a good pen. On the ugly front, there's nothing ugly, so let's just go to the final conclusion. Look, this guy right here, the original USG TiScribe Bolt was one of my favorite pens, is one of my very favorite pens. It is a great pen. As a matter of fact, it is a gem. It is a shining gem. It is probably one of the pens I've recommended more than anything else to people out there in the world. This guy is that same thing, just shrunken down a little bit. All. It's still durable, it's still ambidextrous, it's still good in the hand, it's got a good mechanism still, it's got great material still, it's now at a slightly nicer size for a lot of people, it's still using a very good refill, and in fact it's moved from being a Pilot G2 style and Pilot G2 size refill to a Parker size refill, but look, half the damn world is making Parker pens anyway, so it's absolutely solid, and then to top it all off, it's just, in this form factor, in this size, it is just amazingly lightweight. Mind you, yeah, it's a little pricey. Yeah, there's some non-matching parts. That it's not the most fidgetable thing ever because of the sharp edge there. It's a little tall above the pocket, and it is possible to scratch the body with a clip, but look, those are all nitpicks. At some very real level, there isn't that much to complain about. This is a seriously nice pen. Seriously, I mean, it's so damn light, it's so compact, it's easy to carry, and they have taken a pen that is absolutely great, and they have made a version that is also just as great, but it just happens to be a little smaller while being just as great. And I love that. Given that this full-size guy was a gem, and this is the same, if not a little bit better, for my life, this is also a gem. This is a shining freaking gem. I like this pen a lot. In fact, this may actually be my favorite TiScribe Bolt ever. I really do like the smaller size, especially because I can now tuck this guy into my front pocket, and it carries well there, whereas this guy tends to be a little bit long for something like that. So, between the two of them, I mean, some people are going to ask, well, Nick, which one should I get? Well, you know, at some level, that's going to be a little tricky. The original one has a refill set that I like just a little bit more. I really do like the Pilot G2 cartridge, and the fact that you can also hack down a Mont Blanc cartridge in there, that works great as well. So I appreciate very much the original refill, but the size on this Mini is just amazing. And if you're liking front pocket carry, or if you're liking something like that, there's a lot to be said for this guy. Sorry about the freaking seagulls out there screaming. This is the story of my life now. But anyways, I digress. This is a very nice thing, and I like the size of the Mini. One of the other pens that I've recently reviewed is, and I showed off here on the channel, is the Tactile Turn Mini Bolt, Mini Bolt Action, that is. These are very, very different pens in a lot of ways, and a bunch of people have been asking, Nick, both of them are gems. You recommend both of them. What should I do? I don't know. I have no idea what to tell you here, because these are, in some ways, like I said, they're very different. The TiScribe, it's smaller and it's lighter, and it has much more of a tool aesthetic, right? This feels like it belongs in a toolbox. This feels like it belongs in a boardroom. Mind you, I think this guy could work in a toolbox, and this guy could work in the boardroom, but I think the biggest question is aesthetic. This guy, the Tactile, is a little bit more expensive, not by a whole huge margin, but it's a little bit pricier. But aside from that, both of these are astounding pieces, and I think you could be very happy with with both. So, I really don't know exactly what to tell you there. Ultimately, you just gotta vote your heart, so to speak, and you'll figure out what it is and you can't go wrong in either direction. But anyways, comparisons aside, I like this. That's no shock to me. Unless he screwed it up, I was gonna like this pen, and he didn't screw it up, so I freaking like this a lot. And the fact that they've taken one of my favorite pens, they made it a little bit smaller, yeah, this is good. It's absolutely good to go. And so this is a good daily tool, a compact option for carry, and I have absolutely no doubt that this little gem would be a great addition to your urban survival gear. So there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.